can't see me, you Stevie. Wondering how I reach more evolutions than Evie and make it look easy.
What is up, Earth's mightiest subscribers? It's Blerd Without Fear. Welcome back to the channel. I am joined by two very special guests today. Usually I'm better about doing this beforehand, but I'm probably going to butcher some names here because that's just what I do. This is the second thing I do the most on this channel is butcher names. I talk about comics, I butcher names, but we are joined today by Tom Sniegoski.
Yeah, that's good.
Bam! I got it. Okay, so now let's see if we can go for the double.
Let's go to the easier one.
Well, no, see, you say that, but this is what I'm really good. This stands a better chance. The easier it is, the worse it is for me, actually. Is it Jeannine Acheson?
Close. Acheson.
Acheson. Ah, see, okay.
Close.
You know what? 50-50. I'll take it.
Yeah.
I'll take it. 50-50.
The fact that you got mine is way more than 50.
It's like a 70. We'll give it 70, 75, something like that.
Yeah, I'll go with that. Definitely.
Thank you all so much for hanging out with me. And for one, this is actually a treat in a lot of different ways because there's one comic that has never really been on my channel before. And I had actually been thinking about it for a long time. Like, yeah, dude, why do I never talk about this thing? And it's Vampirella. So I recently, when I knew I was going to be talking with y'all, I actually had kind of already been like reading a lot more of Vampirella. And I also read your Vampiverse. Okay. And I was like, oh, okay. I was like, okay, I'm in. For the uninitiated, people, somehow never have ever read Vampirella a day in their lives. How would you describe the Vampiverse to people that just aren't familiar?
Well, do you want to go like with just the description like Vampirella first? And
yeah. Well, actually, that probably would be better because Vampirella is kind of loaded.
If you don't know who Vampirella is, the Vampiverse isn't going to make a hell of a lot of sense. Vampirella is kind of like the sexy monster hunter for, and depending on which continuity you're using, she's either an alien from the planet Draculon that came to Earth, or she's the daughter of Lilith, the first bride of Adam, and brought to save Eden, and there's a whole religious connotation. those are the two origins. But she's pretty much a monster hunter with her band of supporting characters and cast. Pendragon, who's a magician, and Jonathan Harker, who's a typical the vampire hunter, and things like that. So pretty much, sexy monster hunter is basically the best way to describe it. She's been around since 1969. Designed by Trina Robbins, designed her costume, who just passed away this week.
Yep. God rest his soul.
Created by Forrest J. Ackerman, the creator of Famous Monsters of Filmland. So she's had a long history of various people who like kind of layered her universe. And Vampiverse is Jeannine and I's attempt to give her a more almost cosmic spin, to say that there are multiple realities out there, and each of those realities has their own Vampirella. So you can have a reality, a science fiction reality, which would have a science fiction-y Vampirella, or a Western reality, which would have a Old West Vampirella, or a Conan-esque type sword and sorcery, which would have a sword and sorcery Vampirella. But that's what the Vampiverse is.
Which I really dig because it kind of allows you to kind of have your, like you talked about the two different continuities, because that was actually the first thing I noticed when I started getting into Vampirella. I was like, okay, well, wait a minute. I was like, which one of these?
Yes.
I was like, where do I begin? And I was like, it kind of allows you to have your cake and eat it too. A little bit.
And I was ecstatic that Dynamite let me do that, because I'm the guy that created that second continuity. That everybody's like, wait a minute, I thought she was from Draculon. I thought she was a science fiction character. I'm the one that put that other spin on it. And They came to me. How many years ago did they come to me with to come back?
For the 25th
Yeah,
anniversary. It was like
5 years
5
ago.
years
Well,
ago.
5 They basically said, "How would you like to come back to Vampirella and pick up where you left off?" So that's why there's these two continuities currently,
Mhm.
because you have the Christopher Priest's run,
Right.
and then you have mine and Jeannine's run with Vengeance of Vampirella, Vampiverse, and things like that. So
I was about
yeah.
to say, because you did Vengeance of Vampirella back in like was it like like kind of mid to
90s.
late 90s?
Yeah, 90s, yeah. And then they brought, and so my new Vengeance of Vampirella #1 was me returning after like 25 years, picking up where the last issue of Vengeance of Vampirella left off. So that was cool.
Oh
That was
yeah, I was gonna say that had to be a very interesting thing to do, like to just be like, hey, this thing I used to do, like,
yeah. Well, I had
we're
to go
bringing
back.
it back. We're just gonna do it.
I had to go back to everything. I was like, what the hell was I doing 25 years ago? I don't remember. I don't remember yesterday.
I was gonna say, if there were not any, if there was no notes, or anything like that, it would have been something I probably would have had to be like, you know what, I don't remember.
I actually went and read all the comics again and stuff like that. So yeah.
Was it almost like reading it for the first time? Was it like, or was it just like, or was it like listening to like your favorite song again for the first time?
No, yeah, it was kind of like, oh, I remember, and your brain kind of goes to where you were at that moment, like in your life. What were you actually doing at that moment in your life, and what kind of led the story to be that way? Yeah, so there was a lot of that.
So I guess this is probably the most important part then. So we know there's like the different continuities as the Vampiverse. When you get into Dark Reflections, are we going to be following like main continuity Vampirella, or are we going to be following like another Vampirella from the Vampiverse?
It's another Vampirella from the Vampiverse.
Okay.
And the Vampirella that we find in this world is kind of a down on her luck kind of Vampirella.
Oh, okay.
And
Yeah, kind of a failure.
yeah.
I like this. I like this already.
Yeah.
But there is another character, Lilith, who is from the Vampiverse. She is now part of the reality core. And their mission is to kind of like make sure that everything is okay throughout the fabric, and that all of the threads are okay, and that all of the Vampirellas are okay. And they find that there's an anomaly in this world. And so Lilith, who is daughter of Vampirella.
Yeah, that's the cool thing. She's the daughter of a deceased Vampirella from one of those worlds.
Yeah.
Okay.
She has to check things out, and she helps out.
That was my biggest like question too, because I was like, is this gonna like where is this gonna fit? And my assumption was that this was probably gonna be the case, but like I was assuming. Bad thing to do. But not always. But I'm glad to know that I was kind of like on the right trail.
Yeah.
So we know that we know now that this is going to be a different Vampirella that is, which to be fair, I like this kind of direction with it, because it typically just from what I've read of more recent Vampirella, she's usually pretty on her game.
Yes.
Like she's usually like very
been at this a while, on this at this a while.
She's seasoned. Yeah. So what is it like what was that like? Because it's almost, I don't want to say like a deconstruction, but like but still like giving that alternate take. I guess what can we expect her the tribulation she's going to be dealing with, just on top of you're running into a alternate reality version of her daughter.
Yeah.
I think it's a combination of things that have happened to this Vampirella in her personal life, as well as
the world
and the world that she's living in. She meets up with some really horrible big bads, and they kind of just at the point she's at in her life, and what they do to her, it just kind of obliterates her and wipes her out.
Yeah, kind of like talk about totally removing her from her game.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that take, because it's one of those things like we're really used to seeing our heroes like being like, I'm hero person. I never lose. I always save the day. And there's something kind of nice to see when you see a character that you're you're used to seeing win, not necessarily be on their A game. And I think this is probably like the most, like, honestly, probably the most different way I think you could probably tackle a character like Vampirella, because she's, like you said, she's been around since like the late 60s, and that's a lot of time for a character to have done a lot of things. So I like where your head's going with this.
Well, what's really interesting is when you have the daughter of a Vampirella coming to say, kind of like figure out what's going on. You have this kind of like bright-eyed saying, "Hey, you're a Vampirella," and then seeing how far she's fallen. It's kind of like, oh crap, this is really bad. I've never seen it this bad, so I'm gonna try to help. I'm gonna try to see what we can do to correct this situation. Really neat.
Now, because Vampiverse being what it is this going to be one of those things where like is this going to be the only Vampirella that we follow, or is it, or will there be like, all right, I assume like she'll be the core one, but like will there be any other like versions of like
this
other
particular story? No, there's in this world there's one. One, and then there's the daughter.
Okay.
The daughter of Vampirella, in this particular fabric, the thread of the of the fabric.
Okay. And that because like it's one of those things too where like it's like, okay, well, you start bringing in like, okay, we're gonna have like a Spider-Verse situation. Like, okay, cool.
Yes.
Yeah, this is just like this is a like this isn't gonna be like trying to like throw like every single
right. Well, we have that Vampiverse did that with all the different kinds of Vampirellas and stuff like that.
That was fun.
That was a blast.
So, like, let me ask this, because this is the part where, like, you're kind of getting to, like, I love knowing how the sausage is made. That's a thing for me. So, one of the things I have always admired, and this is because I know how I am as a person. I am an incredibly creatively selfish individual. I can admit that. I like to do everything, but I've never you had the experience of collaborating with another writer on something. So what is that like? What is it like to work as a duo writing something like as creative as this?
Well, first of all, she's a newbie to comics.
So new.
I'm the old crusty guy. I've been doing this for a long time, and she's what are we, 5 years? 4 years?
Just over 4.
Yeah. So
okay, wow.
So we have some real differences of style and
I have none.
It's super interesting. But why don't you talk about the process?
When we first started, Tom and I, very quick background, we're very old high school friends. We reconnected during the pandemic and wrote a novel together. And at one point, Nikki Barucci at Dynamite said, "Oh, hey, Tom, why don't you write a Valentine's Day special for Vampirella?" And this was in end of 2020. And so Tom said, "Well, I have a writing partner. Can she help?" And Nikki was like, "Yeah, sure." So Tom asked me if I wanted to write that Valentine's Day special. And I said, okay, sure, but I had no idea what I'm doing. And I literally had no idea what I was doing. I think for the most part, I sat back and just kind of watched him go because I didn't know anything about writing comics. And then fast forward about 4 years later, and now I feel like I've gotten a handle on it. I know what all the moving parts are. I probably have laid out
you
a little bit on my own.
You do some layouts.
Yeah. And I probably a little bit better with dialogue, I think.
Yeah.
But
again, it's all
time,
this is not an easy thing. Comics is not an easy thing.
It's really not.
It may look easy, but it is not.
We just kind of sit side by side or on our computers over Skype in a Google Doc, and we just kind of hammer it out together, like line by line. He'll write something and I'll go, "Oh, I don't know about that." Or I'll write something and go, "That's completely wrong."
That's more often than not.
Well,
but most of the time we have fun, and it's become like another thing that we do. in addition to our other writing, and I've gotten a hang on it. I've gotten probably a little bit better at it.
I will definitely say for me, I enjoyed the Vampiverse. So I'm gonna go ahead and say I think you can rest easy. You're doing good.
She's doing okay.
Yeah, you're all right. No,
You're all right.
I'm a good teacher.
I'm letting you do this with me, so you have to be at least a little bit good.
Yeah.
I'm not letting you take me down with the ship.
No.
Well, that's the thing that I really kind of dig about this too, is that because I can definitely attest, writing anything is a complex process. It's not easy, and I've encountered instances where I've talked to people not writers but fans, readers. And it's real easy to say, "Oh, you could have done this. Oh, you could have done that. Or oh, why didn't this happen?" And it's the thing I always try and remind people is that when you're writing, yes, you are writing a story. You are writing something that you hope is going to be entertaining to other people, but also at the same time you have to remember that when someone's writing something, you're writing something that you also think yourself will be entertaining. I don't know anybody who writes anything with the express purpose of it being bad. And it's difficult to because there's a lot of moving parts to it. I recently, as writing myself, I read a whole book about it. I've been reading multiple books about it, and like there's a lot that goes into it. So like to transition to comics and do what you have done in just over 4 years, I think is pretty damn impressive. So I just want to put that out there. To get deeper into it though, like you talked about you kind of ping-ponging stuff off of each other.
Yeah.
And I know, Jean, you said you kind of mentioned doing some layouts and stuff like you kind of solo. That's the thing I'm even more curious about too. Is like, is it one of those deals where like you're like, hey, well, maybe I'll take this many pages, or I'll take this particular part, or you take that part, or hey, I'll pick up the act 1 and you take the act 2, and maybe we'll kind of meet in the middle on act 3.
Yeah.
Like what, like that's the process I'm just very incredibly intrigued by.
I think we've done that maybe a couple of times when you've had other deadlines, and I'll say, oh, all right, I'll take the next section and I'll kind of try to lay this out by myself and see what happens. But at that point, you still had to like talk me through, like, okay, so we have all of our beats and we know what's going to happen in each issue. But then it's a matter of like really thinking it through and thinking of it like a movie in your head. Like, okay, I've got 5 or 6 panels on a page. One of them is a fight scene. So that's going to take up maybe, an X, it's going to be a really big panel, or it might even be a whole page. So it's kind of like learning to think a different way.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have split things up a little bit, but by and large, I think all of the drafting that we've done of like laying things out and doing dialogue has honestly been the two of us either sitting side by side or on the computer, and we're in a Google Doc, which Tom hates. But we're in there and we're both kind of have our fingers in the dough at the same time. And it's funny because we talk about like, so I've been doing this for 4 years now, 3 or 4 years. And we have a few, other projects that we're working on. And we talked about, well, gee, do we want to like split things up? And, you'll take that half and I'll take this half. And I'm like, well, no, because it's kind of fun just to, like talk and work on it together. So I don't know. I think we found that really works for us. Like we literally go like line by line, page by page, and just kind of like do it together.
Yeah.
Which is fun.
Yeah.
Makes it not seem like work.
I like that line of thinking. Writing is one of those things like it. Well, I would imagine creatively fulfilling, but also, you're putting you're putting your brain in overdrive. Trying to come up with like the best thing you possibly can. And I like honestly, I tip my hat because I think that y'all have done a pretty damn good job.
When we
thus
were,
far.
it's pretty funny when we were originally coming up with the whole Vampiverse concept.
Mhm.
Alternate realities and stuff like that. That I've been bathing in alternate realities since I was in my 20s. So I'm like rattling shit off. She has no idea what I'm talking about.
Oh my God.
Absolutely, like I could see her practically breaking down into
Yeah.
tears because
Yeah.
she hasn't a clue what I'm talking about.
And I was so afraid to like ask questions because I thought, I don't want him to think I'm really stupid. Like I was an English major. I was an English teacher and like, literature, that's my thing. But comics are like a whole different ball game. Completely different. But it took a while. It took a couple of years, but it finally sunk
But
in.
what a comic to like get your hands wet with. I mean, if you read that, that's a complicated story in terms of like the multiple layers and different characters that are the same character, but they're different characters. Oh yeah. She definitely jumped into the deep end on that one.
A couple of times I almost sang. But...
Oh no.
I wouldn't let
But
her.
you wouldn't let her.
I wouldn't let her sing. I may watch her struggle for a little while, but I'll never watch her.
She got it. Okay, I'll come in now. Well, the thing that I'm curious about too, just because once again you're talking about like say you jumped in on a comic that is probably not the easiest thing to kick off with, but having gone through that trial by fire and come out the other side of it, and obviously recognizing that you've done a good job going into the next step, like from going through like novels and going to comics, like what would you say is like now that you've kind of seen both sides of like what would you say is easier?
I think they're both difficult in their own way, but they're both easy in their own way. I think
when you're doing one, you always think the other one that you're not doing is the easy. Boy, I wish I was doing that, boy, because I would be kicking butt right now if I was doing that. Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah, that's so. And then when it's the other way around, it's like, oh boy, I sure wish I was writing comics.
It's like, man, that grass sure does look greener there.
It's always.
Well, I guess let me ask you this then: what would you say is more fun?
Comics. I think. I mean, we may disagree, but I think comics is definitely more fun.
I think comics are probably more fun.
I think the collaborative nature of comics, working with an artist and seeing their designs and of characters that you create and stuff like that. I think that's way more fun. Whereas novel writing, even when we're writing something together,
very solitary.
It's more solitary. It's you're sitting, it's you and the words.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
You're not looking at anything. It's
true,
you and the words. That's
it. Like our artist for Vampiverse and for Dark Reflections, Daniel Main, he always opens all of his emails and says, "Hello, team," and he's just so sweet and so amazing. And he designed for the Vampiverse. He designed and came up with a bunch of Vampirellas and just kind of would send us drawings. Go, what do you think of this? This is Futurella. What do you think of her?
That would be like, oh, we're gonna have to do something with her. She looks awesome.
There were a few that we actually like said, oh, we got to put them in there because that was too cool not to use. So
he's great.
Yeah.
Well, I guess, and that's another thing too, because if I'm not mistaken, Daniel's gonna be working with y'all on Dark Reflections, if I'm not mistaken. So that's another thing I'm curious about too, because it's not every day that in comics where you have a creative team that kind of transcends from one story to the next. Usually, sometimes if the writer's there, maybe the artist is different the next time, or maybe the artist stays and the writer's different the next time. So like, was it like you kind of already broken in Daniel Main on Vampiverse? So like, what is that like now? Does it feel like that it's even easier, like you're all just on the same page.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's like a shorthand. There's like a
Yeah.
shorthand. Like
Mm.
he kind of gets us.
Yeah.
So when we write something in a script, 99% of the time he's not even gonna question it. Yeah, he's just
Yeah.
he's like, oh, I think I know what they want,
Yeah.
and he just goes ahead
Yeah.
and does it. Yeah, it just I think the more you work with an artist on a project, you develop almost like a shorthand
Yeah.
Mm.
where they get you, they know what you like.
And sometimes they know better what
Yeah.
we like and what we want. Like we might script something and Daniel will come back with something else and we'll go, oh, that's
That looks way better.
That's even way better. That's
That's
great.
way better than the script. Yeah.
So I think we've all kind of learned to trust each other
Mm.
because we trust him implicitly. He's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say, it turned out fantastic work on Vampiverse. So, like I said, I have no concerns in that regard at all. Now one thing I'm curious about too, because I know every writer, if you ask like 20 writers who write comics, hey, what do your scripts look like? How do you script? You'll probably get. You ask 20, you might get 40 answers. Who knows?
Yep.
But two of the more main, or I guess, or more common ways people usually like full scripts, or they do like plot first.
Yep.
Like, how do y'all like to do it? Do y'all have a preference one way or the other?
We like full scripts.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, scripts just help us get a better handle on everything that's going on, be it the dialogue, be it the look of the panels, be it whatever. Full scripts just gives us a lot of more control over our story.
Yeah.
Mhm.
We plot everything out first and then kind of break it down and say, oh, we can do this in 6 pages. We can do this in 4 pages.
Yeah,
And then the script follows from there.
right.
But
Right.
we know probably because you used to do this. Like neither of us is a pantser. Like everything, we have to know exactly where everything is going to go. Everything has to have, every brick in line. So we know exactly where things are going from the beginning until the very end before we even start to script it. So, yeah.
Okay, I like that. Well, it's I read this. One of the first books I read was How to Write Comics, or DC's Guide to Writing Comics, or something like that.
Okay.
But it was I want to say it was Neil Adams that was that was the writer there. But but yeah, like when I was reading through it, I was seeing like all the different ways you could do it, and I was like, and I know me, I know how I am. I like to have a lot of control over where something goes.
Yeah. Well,
So full
honestly,
scripts go.
well, control. The thing is control allows you to basically be able to make this story work.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, I think the more control you have over your story, you're not going to find the plot holes or the mistakes and stuff like that, because you know exactly what's supposed to happen to get your character where they need to go. Of course.
Like it's more like I get less of a guy and more of a blueprint which is,
I mean, and I'm perfectly fine. Like if an artist says, you have this happening, but wouldn't it be cool if this happened? I'm
Right.
perfectly fine to listen to that. And 99% of the time, it works perfect with the storyline. So there's very little revision that has to be done to the actual scripts. So it's not like we're like rigid and no, you cannot deviate. You must not deviate from the script. This is genius.
Right. Well, because they're storytellers in their own right.
Exactly.
So yeah, if anyone's gonna know they have to know how to make it look the way you want it. Like, so yeah, I mean, it makes sense, and it just kind of. I feel like it gives you more of an idea. Like it paint like the more clear picture you can paint. The better it's going to be for all parties involved. And no has to go, well, actually, I said I wanted this, and you didn't put, like, that was the thing that was supposed to be there. You didn't get it in there, and
that happens.
This is
That
awkward.
Yeah, that happens. That definitely happens.
Yeah, I can only imagine sometimes, but yeah, I will definitely say it's y'all have a fantastic team that you fielded on this. So I like, and it's always when something that I love to hear is people having fun. When they're working on these projects, and clearly y'all are having fun. Otherwise,
yeah. Oh
then
yeah.
it would just be weird.
Yeah, why would you put yourself through this?
Right.
You weren't having fun.
Right. So
You know?
so I'd love to see that. I love to see that. Now, Jeannine, I'm curious because once again you said you're relatively new to comics, and I know you mentioned before when we were plotting out the scheduling for the interview, you were talking you're talking about cons and stuff like that. So like being a newbie, coming in brand spanking new to this this fandom, what has that been like?
The first show that I did was a couple of years ago, and it was like WickedCon or Fan Expo in Boston, one of the local Boston shows. And it was fun. We had a table and people would come by and they'd buy our comics and they'd be like, "Oh, can you sign this?" I'd be like, "Oh my God, this is crazy." But then last year we went to San Diego Comic-Con and then New York Comic-Con. And my first day in San Diego, we weren't tabling. We were just kind of walking around and meeting with all Tom's friends and colleagues. And we were there at probably 10 in the morning, and by like 2 o'clock, I was so overwhelmed. Like,
oh man,
just like there's so many, and it's everything that you see on television, like the crowds and all the people, and everybody's excited, and Han Solo walks by, and Pikachu walks by twice, and the first day I was so overwhelmed, I had to leave. Like I was just like
oh
on
no.
overload. It was. I had to I needed fresh air. I had to get out. But then the rest of the time I was fine. The rest of the time I stayed. I did my job and we met with lots of people and
Editors.
yeah, but honestly, like we're going back again. I love it. It's so much fun. It's so much fun.
Well, and being a guy who's not really huge on crowds, I totally empathize.
And I'm not. I hate crowds. This crowd is different.
Mm-hmm.
It's different because everybody's so excited to be there. The energy is just so much different than, I don't know, like commuting into Boston to go to work. Like it's because people are happy and they all want to be there.
Yeah, they all want to be there.
Yeah, it's wild, but I love it. It's really fun.
Now, Tom, for you, this is kind of old hat.
Oh yeah, I've been doing this for a long time. Cons and me for a long time.
So like so I guess my question would be like now versus then. Like have you noticed any like any significant changes in like
I think the like fandom in general is much more aware of everything now.
Mm-hmm.
Like back then, like when I first started comics, they were kind of like, oh, they would read a magazine and it would talk about a writer or an artist and show samples of the artwork. Now everything's instantaneous. You're on the internet, you're seeing the comic, you're moving on to the next one 3 seconds after you looked at that one. So they've just accumulated so much knowledge that they're just aware of everything. And that's super interesting because I think that makes you have to be aware of everything as a creator in terms of like you have to kind of know where they're coming from. When they confront you and say you were supposed to
in issue number 12 of you said this.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh man, I don't even. What comic are we even talking about?
I won't lie. I've been that asshole one time, and I felt really bad about it. And I was like, you know what? Having with the benefit of hindsight, I was like, I'm never doing that again. I was too like I literally went back. I was like, look, I was too invested. That was me. I'm not normally like this.
Doesn't that kind of speak to the way creators or writers or artists can like make you care?
Mm-hmm.
Like if you didn't have fans who cared, and some of them are rabid, and that's okay. Yeah. Like created that. kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's your
But,
fault.
sometimes they can spin around and bite you in the ass. Too.
Well, and this is just my own kind of outsider looking in perspective, but I've been doing comic book YouTube for 6 years now. So I've talked to a lot of people, and I've had a lot of people talk at me. And sometimes when I'm talking about a comic and then I'm just like, oh yeah, I really like this, that, da, 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 whatever. And they did the stuff with the thing and it was so cool. And this is why I think this is the most awesome thing ever. And then someone comes back and is like, well, if you, I just didn't care for this because blah, blah, blah. And it didn't make me feel happy, warm and fuzzy inside. And it's like, well, but did you feel something?
Right.
Yeah.
Because you're expressing an emotion. I was like, always the most common response I usually get people is like, but you felt something.
Yeah.
And for better or worse, that's kind of the job.
Yeah.
It's
It's words and pitches generating emotion, an emotional response.
Yeah.
Excitement, fear, disgust.
Mhm.
Yeah. It's funny you should say that. I used to say that to my students all the time.
Okay.
Their parents would come in at the beginning of the year and I'd give my spiel about, it's my job to expose your kids to all different kinds of things. And we're going to read some sweet stuff. We're going to read some gory stuff. We were in 7th grade. We read Edgar Allan Poe.
Mhm.
And a lot of times we read a lot of short stories that had like no ending. Everything was very ambiguous. The kids would get so mad. And I'm like, I know, but you're feeling it. Like you feel it. So I did my job.
Well, and that's it kind of speaks to the biggest issue I think I've had. An issue I've seen that I feel is probably the most dangerous thing to. It's not just comics, really any form of media. And I'm glad to hear that this is something that you try to get across, and that's media literacy. A lot of times I encounter stuff where I see people like, oh, well, I don't like this story because it did this, or it maybe it touched on something that was maybe not the nicest thing in the world, but it's not, but it's addressing it because it's trying to tell you, it's trying to express something about that, and it's not that you're supposed to be happy that it happened. You're supposed to feel the way you feel about it. I feel like that's one of the biggest issues is a lack of media literacy. I feel it actually should be something that people teach in schools, but and like on an official capacity.
Yeah, well, especially since the media is so, such a part of everybody's life that it would be nice if they could learn how to interpret things.
Yes.
And, and understand things better.
Yeah.
It's well, one day I hope. It does make me feel good to know that it is something that maybe one day could maybe one day be better. But to make it less heavy, to make it less of a heavy topic, to get back into just working together and working together on Vampirella Dark Reflections. One thing I was curious about, like, because when you talk about a collaborative effort, clearly there are going to be ideas. You're going to be like bouncing ideas off each other.
Yeah.
You're going to be it's like you're like, hey, throw this at you. What do you think? And I'm gonna throw this at you. Like, what do you think? Yeah. Like when y'all are bouncing ideas off of each other, do you ever like encounter any ideas that are like, I don't know, but maybe do it this way, or I don't know, but I throw that one back, or like what, like how do y'all work through that?
It's funny you should mention that. But when we first started writing our first comic together, and then we did Vampiverse together, and then Panther with Dynamite as well.
Right.
I always said at the beginning, and in our writing too, because I hadn't written before, except for school and things like that. I always said to Tom, well, I'll defer to you because, you're the experienced one and you know how to do this. And I'm, just learning. And slowly that's kind of been taking a back seat But that's a testament to his excellent teaching credentials, because now I feel like I have I'm a little bit more opinionated about what we put in or how a character would act, or like, I don't know, how a scene should look. And I think that's because you're such a good teacher.
Oh yeah.
Well, like, because that is something that, like, and maybe, and I feel like this is probably one of the greatest strengths of collaborative writing, is when you're writing solo, you don't really have any. I mean, you can ask people, obviously, you can be like, hey, what do you think about this idea? But like when you're working with someone else, you have someone literally like right there who can kind of like be like yeah, I think this is cool, or yeah, I don't know, throw that one back.
Yeah. For the most part, I think we kind of, even when I have opinions, we're
pretty much on the same page.
We are pretty much on the same page. When our opinions differ, I think we kind of we each present our points as to why we think something should go a certain way. And then usually whoever has a better point. Yeah, sometimes it goes my way, sometimes it goes his way.
It should always be my way, but it really isn't.
Like, well, and that's something, and I think this is also really cool too, because Tom, you've been, like I said, you've been in the game. You've been in the game for a while. You have, like, you've got skin in the game on Vampirella. Like I said, going back a long ways. And you've written lots of other stuff too. So I mean, yeah, you're kind of yeah, you would be the guy to kind of defer to, be like, well, no, but I appreciate the fact that, like, it's still that collaborative, like,
if you're gonna do it right.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to be the person that says, no, I'm right, be quiet.
Yeah,
that's not collaboration. So no.
I applaud it, because I could easily see where where that could happen, and it's really
I have to stop it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's coming. It's the words are almost coming out of my mouth, and I'm like, no, this is different. You're not by yourself now.
Right.
You have to, like, listen to what another person has to say, even though it might be wrong.
Well, it's like I always tell some people in my comments, I'm always like, hey, you're entitled to you are entitled to that opinion. It's a very wrong opinion, but you're entitled to it, and I will defend to the death your right to have it. But and that's usually. But I will also say too that you've just talking with y'all have kind of opened my eyes up to what I feel are probably some of the best parts of writing with a partner, like, because it's something that, not say I was like, no, I'll never do it, but like it was one of those things I was like, I don't know if I could ever do that, but like I'm kind of thinking about, like, it actually sounds like it'd be like really, really fun. Why don't more people?
Well, honestly, there really has to be the proper chemistry.
Yeah.
Like I've collaborated with a lot of people. Chris Golden and I a lot together. Mike Mignola and I have written stuff together. So it's like things have to work. Because there have been other people that I've started the process and realized this ain't going nowhere. and usually it doesn't get very far before you just kind of go, no, I don't think this is going to work. So that does happen too. But I think the proper chemistry, like brain chemistry, I think what a lot is that, do we share a similar
level of crazy?
Level of crazy is as good as anything.
Well, so let me ask you this, because once again, we got Vampirella Dark Reflections on the way, and I'm curious to know, like, if you can't say, it's okay. I know sometimes the red dots come out of nowhere, and you got to be like, oh, what? I'm sorry, I wasn't gonna say it. I wasn't gonna bring up the thing. But it sounds like Dynamite is really kind of getting behind what y'all are doing, which I think is great.
Yeah.
But do we know how, so with Dark Reflections, are we looking at maybe is it gonna be treated as an ongoing, or is it gonna be treated as a limited series?
I think it's limited. I think it's 5. I think it's 5 issues.
It's
Mhm.
5.
Four.
It's 5.
Is it 5 or 4?
5.
5.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's 5, not 6.
It's
Yeah.
5. It's 5
5
issues. But if the response is good,
Right.
you could definitely see us jumping off from that point to the next
Mhm.
story. I mean, we've got storylines in our brain with with these characters and stuff like that, so we could very easily transition into the next chapter of this story.
Okay. And and that was actually gonna kind of be my next thing too, is because once again, you guys been doing really good stuff with your work at Dynamite right now. Is there any, I don't, because once again, this is all kind of pie in the sky at this point, and because I know y'all have done stuff for Panther. Are there any other, or would there be another property that Dynamite has access to that
we'd like to take a crack at?
Yeah.
Oh man, we've talked about maybe Red Sonja. That might be fun to do, because I've not really done sword and sorcery before.
Mm-hmm.
Might be kind of fun to do, and we know she hasn't done it. But we'd like to continue to play in the Vampiverse. I mean, that's kind of that was such a gigantic thing that we've created.
There's so many stories in there.
Delving deeper into that universe. I mean, I can just imagine the craziness we could pull out of there. I mean, that's really fertile ground for some crazy stories, while keeping with that familiar Vampirella aspect, but putting that spin on it that you might not expect. That's really fun. That's what's really fun. Yes, you take the familiar and then you spin it on its head, and then you go, oh wow, I never thought of a Vampirella story this way.
That's very profound.
You like that? I think I can leave.
Yeah, it was.
I've said all I'm going to say. I'm not going to spoil it.
No. We don't want that. I'll just put this one out here for free. But I was like, hey, if you could maybe even split the difference. You could probably even because it's we've seen Red Sonja and Vampirella interact. They've had crossover comics, so maybe there's a Vampirella somewhere in the Vampiverse that is maybe a fire-headed warrior woman. I don't know. I mean, it's just saying it's a thing.
Well, that's the beauty of what of the Vampiverse concept is nothing is far-fetched.
Right.
I mean, you could take the craziest idea and go, well, wait a minute, that could work, and here's how you make it work. That's why we love that. We hope that we're allowed to play in that sandbox some more, because it's limitless in terms of the kinds of stories you can tell.
Well, I for one will say, Mr. Barucci, just putting this out here. Please let them do that. Please and thank you. So we have I'm trying to make sure I have my dates on this correct. Dark Reflections, Vampirella Dark Reflections #1. Is it coming out in June?
June.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's the first week of June.
Yeah.
First week of June? Okay.
Yeah. It's currently in the new order book right now.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
The Diamond book. Go to it. Order this. Multiple copies. All the covers.
I was gonna say there's a I was when I was actually looking up the date, I was like, I saw there was there's a metal premium cover. I was like, okay, hold on, wait a minute.
Metal premium. We never see
don't
that.
see anything.
We never see that stuff.
Well, I mean, look, I think I was actually joking about this with Declan Shalvey, who's doing Thundercats. 'Cause he was talking about, he's like, oh, I've never been foiled before, and I was like, man, I bet that's a good feeling. I was like, but metal. See, now you get metal. Okay, so that's a whole other, that's a whole other ballpark.
I've been foiled.
Foiled again.
I've been foiled. My early days at Harris Comics on Vampirella, they did a bunch of different kind of foil covers.
Fancy.
Well, hey,
Profound as well as fancy.
well, what I definitely just want to say, for one, anyone watching this, please go check it out. Go check out. First off, if you haven't done so already, go check out Vampiverse. And I'm gonna make sure I have links to everything down in the description. Pinned y'all, you guys watching at home, you know the drill by now, I hope. But yeah, there'll be links down below for both Vampiverse and to go ahead and get your pre-order in for the Vampirella Dark Reflections #1. And if you go to your local comic shop, maybe ask your proprietor to maybe put it in your pull box. I don't know. I'm not telling you what to do with your life, but you should probably do that.
You'd be better off. Your life would be better with this in your pull box.
Yes. And I guess before we go, are there any because I always like to give people an opportunity to do this, but because I know everyone has tons of irons in the fire, but are there any other personal projects that y'all would like to plug while you're here?
There's a bunch of stuff we can't announce yet.
I
It
know.
hasn't been officially announced. Maybe we can come back on your show once it's officially announced.
Yeah.
I think we can set a date for that. I believe we could set a date for that.
Okay.
But yeah, so once again, y'all kind of know already that there's gonna be some more stuff coming.
There's one thing that we can talk about.
Oh.
Yes, we have a novella coming out in January or February, the early 2025, with Bad Hand Books.
Ooh.
A small press out of South Dakota. Doug Morano is fantastic, and we're working hard on that. And that one we can talk about because it's been announced. So we're very
That's a new character that we both created, and it's prose, so it's away from comics, but at the same time it's super exciting, and we plan to do more with this character.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Have they already put anything out for as far as pre-order information?
The cover. They released the cover.
Yep.
And it's called Nira.
Okay.
Nira. So
We can send you a link actually if you'd
Okay,
like one.
yeah. Because like I said, I would love to share that info, and I'll we put that information out there. So yeah, thank y'all. Thank y'all for literally just sitting here and shooting the shit with me. And
we usually can't find anybody to listen to us.
No, I don't want to believe that.
Yeah, we just yell at each other. You're a good filter.
You guessed it, obligatory channel outro time. If you're not subscribed to the channel, consider doing so. Clicking that subscribe button and tapping that notification bell ensures that you get more videos just like this one, and you don't miss any of my other content that I drop throughout the week, plus my live streams every Thursday and Saturday. And if you enjoyed the video, make sure you click that like button, keep it plus ultra, and sound off in the comments.